So, it's the same story. So the goat was running away from the other monsters and the other animals, and a flower blocking the way. So the flower was on fire. The racing car was maybe helping the goat, and there was some stairs, who's like a jail stairs, and there was one person who was like on top, and he got killed by the trap.
Okay, so it's almost like a little story.
Yes.
And what is SBW?
So it's not a word, but I just wanted to write SBW.
Okay, you like those letters?
See.
And Daddy's name is next to the goat. Does that mean that Daddy's the goat?
Yes. So it's Daddy Goat.
Daddy Goat.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense to me.
Award-winning artist Drake recently released his most recent album called For All the Dogs. The clip that you have just seen caught my attention. I thought to myself, what the hell's going on here? Reading in between the lines. For those that are not aware of who Drake is,
you used to call me on my cell phone.
He's considered the GOAT of the hip-hop and rap industry. I understand that a huge majority of people may not listen to hip-hop or rap, but we also have to take in consideration and understand that hip-hop itself is one of, if not the most influential music genres in the world, affecting the poorer populations and people that have had to go through the dirt to get what they need. Essentially, those people override the middle class and upper class peoples of the world. There are essentially more people at the bottom. Hip-hop in general and Drake's sound attracts this type of audience. Myself, always been a lover of Drake's music. I am not here to slander, to bring down, only to question. And the video is mainly concerning his son Adonis, which we will get into, the name, everything that we saw in the video. This is not trying to tarnish his son. This is no attack on him or the child. For as if you have watched previous videos of mine, you will know I have a lot of compassion for all peoples of the world, especially our children's. It's such a paradox to live in a world where you've been brought up listening to a particular type of music, only to realise later what they're actually speaking about. Having always liked Drake's music, I was also aware of the reference to the sixth god, to his consistent reference of a sixth god of types, which for me is highlighting he's not worshipping the god which we all believe in. He's worshipping the other god, the sixth god, the 666 god, Satan. Ultimately, OVO also can stand for the 666. There's a lot of connotations around Drake, including him wearing owl jewel pieces and having owl logos, which all seem to associate to the dark side. Giving him some credit, ultimately they could represent other things. The owl, in general terms, can just simply represent wisdom. However, I'm also aware that Drake has huge ties to the ancient Egyptian culture, which is also in most of our secret societies and royal families. Seemingly have moved from Egypt and spread all across the world the secret worship of Ra, which we see all around Drake. As we proceed through the video, I'll be showing you all the things that raise concern regarding Drake through my own eyes. Interpretations you may already be aware of or you may have not seen. So for those unaware, Drake let his son design the cover art for his latest album. The thing that stuck out to me was why he used the goat and his reference to the goat as a monster rather than an animal. When we look at the piece of paper that Adonis is writing on, we see quite a few symbols and items stick out from the page. Various components to the drawing, which we will slowly go through. The S, the B, W, the goat, the racing car, the flower, all seem to have relevance. Also how daddy is spelt with one D. As stated before, the GOAT is a phrase that is used across every industry.
Go ahead, say it then. Who the GOAT? Who the GOAT? Who the GOAT? Who the GOAT? Who you bitches really want?
Representing the greatest of all time, but also hinting towards the bafflement. All the symbolism they use also highlights this. As stated before, the constant reference to the sixth god.
Behind closed doors, a lot of six God worshiping.
Behind closed doors, a lot of six God worshiping. Six God worshiping.
Six god worshipping behind closed doors. God's plan. Which god is he referring to? The upside down cross. The constant Egyptian references in all of his videos. His hand symbols. OVO in October's very own. The 10th month, 10 being associated with evil. One of the things that sticks out to me about the Drake that always has is why he calls himself the boy. It's a strange thing to call yourself when you're a man, but the one thing that it reminded me of was the movie Little Monsters. To cut a long story short, the movie Little Monsters is about a boy who gets visited by monsters which come from underneath his bed, actually a portal which he can transcend himself. As the movie progresses, it turns out that the below is full of monster-like beings, which is led by a monster called the Boy. The Boy is essentially a demon dressed as a man. Their aim is to hold children in the underworld for a certain period of time, so they themselves turn into monsters and can't return to the surface. Light seems to destroy these beings.
Back to back for the niggas that didn't get the message. Back to back like I'm on the cover of Lethal Weapon. Back to back like I'm Jordan 96.
Also, in the video you saw at the beginning with Drake's Son Adonis, he mentioned the stairs. At the top of the stairs, a man which is killed by a stick or a track. That scene is actually in this movie.
I want my brother!
Hugely related to child kidnapping, trafficking, all again edging towards the MK manipulation control.
You'll be the one in charge of yourself. Perhaps this whole world in time. You know, boy gets what he wants. When he asks you for a favor, you should take that as a compliment.
What?
The boy gets what he wants. The boy always gets what he wants. This was the scene in a movie that's revealed that the boy is actually a monster, hiding behind a mask essentially.
Unique individual, Brian. Your feats, unprecedented here. Why, I can scarcely remember the last time one of our little breed had been trapped. Not once, but numerous times.
Enough wind blow for breath! Hand over the kid! Where is he? Let's see him!
Very well. Let's have the contestants take a look behind curtain number 1.
Let's have the contestants take a look. The connotations toward game shows I've already highlighted in some of my videos. So further to this, in relation to the boy, I found it even more interesting that Drake co-signed Top Boy, the UK series, which was failing. The boy co-signs Top Boy, and him himself is considered the top of the hip-hop industry. I haven't gone into it, but Drake's name alone represents a lot, highlighting towards the rapture, and also Drake obviously having huge connotations towards a fire-breathing dragon. His son, Adonis. Adonis we know as the deity from Greek mythology, the deity of plants and rebirth, the god who was ever youthful, the one that would live and die, only to be reborn again, represented a cycle. Now, in relation to his name and what he does, I find it interesting that Adonis actually draws a flower on the piece of paper and speaks about fire. Now, when we read through the myth of Adonis, he was gored by a wild bull during a hunting trip and died in Aphrodite's arms as she wept. His blood mingled with her tears and became a flower. With all the wildfires, the burning of nature, the taking down of trees, the attack on the crops and ourselves, chemtrails, dew. For me, this has links to that in a lot of ways. Taking it a little bit further as well, Adonis's name comes from the Canaanite tradition, which has further links to the Egyptian culture. Canaanites themselves have a variety of languages. One of those languages is Phoenician. One of the things that stands out to me about this correlation or link is that there's a huge amount of Drake's artwork and album covers which letters seem to be from different origin, more Phoenician or Greek in nature. Myself unsure exactly what language he's imitated, but I'm aware he is. In a lot of the work you can easily find the 666.
So, it's the same story.
At the very beginning of the video, Adonis states, so it's the same story. For me, I took this as the cycle, as things repeating themselves, as the reset if you like, as things going round and coming back on themselves, the same story.
So the goat was running away from the other monsters and the other animals.
Why was the goat running away from the other monsters and the other animals? To start with, he uses the word monsters and then changes it to animals. Why is he saying that his friends or other animals, as Drake here is pictured as a goat, are monsters? It almost brings us back to the Little Monsters movie, where the boy is a monster, a demon hiding in a human suit.
That makes me think of Peter Pan, since he refuses to grow up and he's always a boy, and Peter Pan is trickster god right there, you know.
And a flower blocking the way. So the flower was on fire.
The flower was blocking the way. The flower was of fire. It just reminds me of the wildfires happening all across the world. And nature, flowers and trees are almost looked at as they're blocking the way, taken down by fire.
The racing car was maybe helping the goat.
The racing car was maybe helping the goat. This one could be multiple interpretations. I'm open to suggestions. The racing car could ultimately be a piece of technology. But in terms of the cover art, to me, it looks like a scarab beetle. Again, referring to the Egyptian culture.
And there was some stairs, who's like a jail stairs.
We saw the stairs in the Little Monsters.
And there was one person who was like on top, and he got killed by the trap.
Where the boy stood on top of those stairs. It almost reminds me of the hierarchy, the pyramid and its hierarchy, with the one standing at the top and many layers below. In terms of hip-hop, Drake for me would be at the top of this pyramid, and alongside him be people like Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, maybe Cardi B would be at the top of the other pyramid. Beyonce has long been associated with the Mother of Darkness. Drake would ultimately be a male version of that, potentially a Grand Wizard, a warlock, hugely influential in the hip-hop industry.
Okay, so it's almost like a little story.
Yes.
And what is SBW?
It's almost like a story. Every story has a beginning and an end. Why is this story so important to Adonis? What relevance does it have? And why does it seem so important to Drake? Obviously it's his son doing this, we understand that. For me there seems to be something else more.
So it's not a word, but I just wanted to write SBW.
Okay, you like those letters?
See.
He says it's not a word, but he just wants to write SBW. On the page, the S to me looks like a kind of snake. But again, what I was referring to earlier about the different types of languages and alphabets from the past relating to Egyptian and Canaanite culture, it could easily be from there. The B almost looks like a bow and arrow. For me though, the S stood away from the B and W, and when we look at some of the other cover art, that is the case. The S is separate to the B and W. On this particular picture, we can see all the elements separated. We have the S, we have the racing car, which I said looked like the scarab beetle, the daddy missing a D.
And Daddy's name is next to the goat. Does that mean that Daddy's the goat?
Yes.
Daddy, again, associated with handlers. But Daddy spelt with just one D. Why let the spelling mistake happen? If we separated the Y from the dad, it would be Dad Y. Dad Y. And in previous videos I've spoke about Mac and the name Andy relating to DNA Y in terms of our DNA structure. Daddy is a very close anagram to DNA Y, or Andy again. Andy worship. and for me, relating to the god of evil, the sixth god as Drake likes to call him. You also have the component of fire on the album cover. Videos I've done about catching fire and wildfires all across the world. Albums seem to be highlighting this from all types of artists, including Dolly Parton. B and W, as I say, seems separate from the S. In Freemasonry, representing strength, beauty and wisdom.
It's not a word, but I just wanted to write SBW.
Okay. You like those letters?
See.
After watching your video, I did these real quick. Let me know what you think. So, as you know, you said snake. I'm thinking snake or Satan. But look at this. The B looks like this, and you were saying it looked like a bow, and then you had that W. But look at that B. On the album cover, it's really, really thick on this side, which makes me think of a 3. I'm left-handed and holding the camera with my right, so I'm not going to do this very good. So I see a 3. Anyways, and then if you take that W and rotate it to the left, what do you have? A 3.
I feel what Erica spotted regarding the 33 is correct. It would make sense. I've already mentioned Drake would be a druid or warlock of some type, meaning he would be a 33rd degree Master Mason, linking to people such as Aleister Crowley, who also highly worshipped the Egyptian culture and often wore symbols relating to Egypt or Ra. However, still further to this, it still could be letters from other languages. If we look at the Proto-Canaanite alphabet, Mem, M, looks just like the B or the 3. Shin or S looks very much like the W. The snake, however, not being so obvious in this alphabet. This alphabet being known as the first tongue. The language and alphabet also relate to L. And further to that, Israel, as the Canaanites came from Israel. A funny find, the new Israeli-Palestine war, the one of 2023, started on October 7th. Drake's album was released on October 6th. The war started a day after Drake released his album. And finally, just back to the SBW, the most logical answer seems to be heading towards Freemasonry's SBW or SWB, strength, wisdom, beauty. How does a boy of his age know about these letters? This alone should tell you everything you need to know and back up everything that I've said in relation to being a high-ranked Freemason or Illuminati.
So it's Daddy Go.
Daddy Go.
Yeah.
I just find it odd, Daddy Go, with all the MK research that I've done and Daddy having huge associations to the handler and control, the goat having huge associations to evil, link them together.
That makes perfect sense to me.
So to conclude, if you weren't aware of Drake's role in the hip-hop industry and the world stage before, maybe you are a little bit more now. The purpose of the video wasn't to give you a full decode of the album art, but to bring your attention to it, give you particular elements for you to go away and look yourself. Essentially, Drake influences millions and billions of people across the world. We know that the music industry, the movie industry, alongside everything else, is used to help prop up the system, help prop up the elites, to keep us under control and manipulation. For these lyrics and what they're talking about most of the time is sex, violence and bad behaviour. Ultimately they influence the youth, the populations of the world, in a very negative way, all to do with materialism, the gaining of wealth and riches, and sexual pleasures and endeavours. Makes the populations desire and want to be like Drake, edging on to all the fame and celebrities across the world that we all seem to worship. I can honestly say I don't myself, but there are many in the world that do worship these celebrities more so than themselves or their mother or father. It seems to be any outside force seems to get our attention rather than ourselves. These people have been set up to keep you away from the truth, to keep you away from finding yourself, and hidden in our face is all the symbology of what they are doing. The public, completely unaware to what is happening, don't see it at all. There is much more to the common eye, much more to the narrative. It is up to us to see it, Love and light to all.